Welcome again to Wickerson Studios. I'm going to continue with this algorithms for various and adaptable forms. I guess it's an intermediate level, but get you thinking differently and maybe going in and just building objects, not doing much more than surfacing and piping, but you'll see why I'm doing that. Let's put it on so we only see what we actually want to see, what we're clicking. And I have gone in and, of course, made a range. And I'm getting into the practice of a range of two steps in the XY direction. But instead of just grafting with these quick clicks in the range or there, I'd like to put the path mapper in, put in the I indices, or just use that for the null or graft or flatten, so I can understand what's actually happening with the visualization of the tree data. So in the param viewer, you basically have, the same lineup with AB as the levels of the path to the indices, 3 on each item, but grafting it brings that I into the equation of the curly brackets. And of course, it makes, from this level of what you're looking at as a param viewer of the ranges into something that's much more visualized. I think in doing so, and having these three branches, that makes this make more sense. If not, well, then you probably aren't spending as much time on data trees as you could. That said, I bring the points in and also do the same for the vectors, which is kind of nice. You see the tree data for the vectors, which have not been grafted. Just bring in the Z, and then I visualize the vectors. I think using a visualizing vector tool is a good thing as well. So you have your points, you have your range, and you have your vectors. Now, basically, I'm going to move those in that direction, but I can see why those points are moving in that direction and ending up there. I merge both sections, so I have a really cool data tree. I'm going to merge this data with this data. I'm going to simplify it, and I'm going to graft it once. Now, once again, I didn't graft it in the path macro, so not really once again, but I thought for just the neatness of the code, I would do that. So I brought that in, grafted it there, so I have all these items, and then I can take a look at what the null data looks like. I can play with it in the and maybe I'll put on my bifocals at this point, play with the relative items by bringing in two paths of the same two paths. I thought that was interesting. Maybe I should tuck this in down here and do this after, do the relative trees after I do relative tree, which is a single tree, and I don't want to complicate things. But let's ungroup this and basically take that data, put it into the relative tree. So it's all coming in as one tree of data, and it's being read in the param viewer like this. And in reading it, you can see that you have 18 branches. There's a number system of 0, 0, all the way up to the 18th branch, which is 2, 5, and with one item on each. So I can pick and choose with the offsets what I want to grab, and I've actually only grabbed 0, 1, so I'm going from point 0, 0 to 0, 1, which is here, and I've gone from 1, 1, so I've gone from 0, 1 to 1, first one's 0 to 0, 1, and to 0 to 1, 1, and then from 0 to 1, negative 1, which you'll have to see how that has an effect when I build the geometry of the lines, and we end up building this very nice line system here. And I've actually brought from my points being raised from this geometry to this geometry. I thought, well, why not? I might even use those vertical lines. So that was the fastest way to get those. I could have worked them through the scripting of the offsets here, but I thought, hell, I can just grab them from those two sets. So what you have is this pretty interesting geometry right here, and you can pipe that, and you get a cool thing to look at. Now, the other thing I did was I grabbed offsets as two separate, both branches. I don't know if people do this. I grabbed both data as both trees, and I don't know if that's actually making a huge difference in what I do. Probably futile, but of course I've got to play with it until I get something I like. I actually pruned the tree because I wanted to get rid of the small things so my polyline will work, and with a little bit of data that's different by bringing in the offsets again. But what I've done with the offsets, the same three offsets, but bringing in the both trees as opposed to a single tree, not producing this pattern, but actually producing this pattern. And that's just having it play between the one tree to the next tree. I did a minimum of 2 because if I don't do that on pruning the tree, I have these single items that pop out. Maybe if I just bypass that, you'll see what I mean. I've got a little bit of fault. I've got these dead lines that end up somewhere. So what I did was say get rid of all the minimum of 2. Anything under 2, get rid of, and then it runs my script better. And then I'm just putting a system of triangles on those surfaces and closed areas. So if I play with this and take this up, I can start to really have fun with the different panels and how many I want to do. And I keep this pretty minimal so I can understand my script. I think 3 is just fine. Now that said, let's go down here and let's ungroup this section, and we'll see where I took it. I'm going to group this one again, and I'm just going to take that little one, bring it down there. So same thing, I've gone in, done the exact same thing, found the points, found the vectors, visualization of the vectors, points up, merged them together, and I brought it also, the same pattern into that merged because I like this pattern that I made of the surfaces. But I said, well, what would I do with this last section? And what I did here was I added one extra little bit of script. And it's very minor, but I thought it would just give a few more little supports as we went through. And I put on the 0, 2. Now you can write these all into one panel, but what I do is I type a lot of different codes and see what I like structurally. And I'm going to keep it all. And I guess I could have piped that and brought this pipe in as well. That might actually be nice if I didn't do that. So that brings in the vertical. Not really necessary, kind of shows some more support. And then by doing that, I can grab both sections and I have this kind of interesting thing that I might or might not build. So you're working with a list that stays pretty engineered. Not a lot of chaos, but pretty cool structure that I have some strong control over. And I subtly change my scripts one after another. And I like this picking and choosing between both sets. I really like the idea of starting with a point on the bottom grid and then moving up and grabbing points on the top grid and returning to that with a polyline. So sometimes I'm closing with lines, sometimes I'm closing with polylines. And I'm not getting stuck, or I'm not actually taking advantage of things like Weaver Bird and other things. I actually just want to build my geometry by the same sense as a sculptor, that I can go buy lumber and I can go buy hardware and I can buy rope and I can buy wire and I can put things together any way I choose. And once again, with this whole practice of saying that this is digital sculpture is sculpting, nobody has the ability. Nobody has the right to direct your hand, and nobody can tell you what to think. So I am trying to find a group of sculptors and artisans that want to work by building, by scripting, thinking of these as geometries that then can go off to any type of lab for printing or manufacture. But I want the artist to have total and utter control over this design, not just an inspirational sketch or drawing. I think it's important to have a hand in being capable of manipulating all the data and visualizing that data. So that's the type of school I see in the future for me, and I hope you see it in the future for yourselves. Thanks very much for watching.